I never imagined that the child I once rocked to sleep would one day stand in court and say I owed her everything. My home. My savings. My very dignity. She said I wasn't of sound mind, that I didn't know what I was doing. But what she didn't know was that I'd already seen the lawyer. And the paper I handed the judge didn't just protect me, it made the bailiff step forward and say, "Ma'am, you're coming with us." They say time softens pain. That with age, you learn to forgive, to forget, to hold your children close no matter what. But they never talk about what to do when the pain is delivered by your own blood. I'm Miriam Rose. 65 years old. Widowed. Grandmother of 4. And, until recently, I believed my greatest purpose in life was to give. Give love, give support, give everything I had to my children. Especially my daughter, Lorraine. Lorraine was always difficult. Even as a little girl, she craved attention like air. If her brother got a new toy, she wanted 2. If I hugged one child too long, she'd act out until the spotlight returned. Still, I loved her fiercely. Perhaps too fiercely. I tried to overcompensate after her father passed away when she was just 15. I thought spoiling her was a way of showing love. That mistake cost me more than I ever imagined. It started small. Lorraine would call and say, "Mama, I'm a little short on rent this month." And I'd send a check without hesitation. Then it became, "Mama, the kids need new school uniforms." Or, "Mama, my husband lost his job again. Could you help us with the mortgage?" I gave. Over and over. I gave until I was dipping into the savings account my husband and I had built over 40 years. I gave until I sold the gold bangles he had left me. My wedding bangles. He once told me they were his promise that I'd never be without security. I remember clutching them in my hand before I gave them to the jeweler. "Lorraine needs me," I whispered to the air, as if his ghost could still nod in approval. But Lorraine never stopped needing. Eventually, I moved out of my own home, the one my husband and I had built with laughter and retirement plans, and into a small cottage on the edge of town. Lorraine convinced me it was better this way. "Downsizing is practical," she said. "Besides, this house is too much for you now. Let me handle it." She moved in the following week. I told myself it was fine. That she was young, raising a family, and needed stability. That I could start over. But starting over at 65 is a strange thing. Your bones ache in unfamiliar ways. Your mornings are quiet. Not the peaceful kind, but the lonely kind. Your mailbox is mostly bills and supermarket ads. And when you walk past your old home, and see your grandchildren playing in the yard that once held your rose garden, your chest tightens in ways even time can't explain. I would bring them cookies. Homemade, with walnuts the way they liked. I'd walk up the steps and ring the doorbell, and most times, no one would answer. Other times, Lorraine would open the door with a tight smile. "Oh, you should have called, Mama. I just thought I'd surprise you." "Well, next time call first." Eventually, I stopped going uninvited. It all came crashing down the day I received a letter from a lawyer. It was neatly folded, printed on thick, expensive paper. It said I was being sued for control of my own remaining assets, by Lorraine. She claimed I was mentally unfit to manage what little I had left. I stared at the letter for what felt like hours. My tea had gone cold. My hands trembled, not from age, but from something deeper, betrayal. I tried to call her. She didn't answer. So I walked down to the library. Not because I wanted a book, but because I needed to see someone who knew me, someone who wouldn't look at me like a burden. Old Mrs. Appleton, the librarian, had been a friend for decades. She saw my face and immediately reached out. "Miriam? What's wrong?" I showed her the letter. Her lips pressed into a line. "You need help, Miriam. Real help. A lawyer. An advocate." I shook my head. "She's my daughter." She held my hand. "And you're a human being. Not an open wallet." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my little cottage, surrounded by silence, staring at photographs on the wall. My wedding. The kids in kindergarten. Lorraine in her graduation cap, smiling wide, holding the flowers I'd bought. What had I done to deserve this? That question repeated like a cruel lullaby. The next morning, I found a name in the phone book. Peter Langley, elder law attorney. His office was small, but he was kind. He offered me tea and listened, really listened, as I told him everything. When I finished, he leaned back. You've given her power over you, Miriam. Out of love, yes, but that power was never hers to take. Let's change that. And so we began. Peter helped me gather every transaction, every wire transfer, every document Lorraine had ever signed. Especially the ones giving her temporary rights to manage the house. She hadn't realized the temporary clause expired 2 years ago. Legally, the house was still mine. He brought in a financial investigator, a quiet, sharp-eyed woman named Carla, who dug into accounts I didn't even remember opening. Lorraine had opened credit lines in my name. Maxed them out. She had rerouted pension payments through a shared account and withdrawn them for spa trips and vacations I'd never heard about. It was all there. In black and white. When I saw the printout, I didn't cry. I felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Just done. The court date arrived on a gray Monday. The sky looked like it hadn't decided whether to rain or just hold its breath. Lorraine walked in with her lawyer and her husband, looking like the picture of stress. Elegant, polished, even pitiful. She saw me and gave a tight smile. One of sympathy or mockery, I couldn't tell. Peter leaned in. Are you ready? I nodded. And when the judge asked if I had anything to present, I stood. I handed over a file. Neatly labeled. Containing everything. The room was quiet as the judge read through it. His eyebrows furrowed. He flipped pages faster. And then, he looked up. Is this accurate? He asked Lorraine's lawyer. Whispers. Fumbling. I'd like to call for a recess, the opposing lawyer said. The judge's voice was calm. Firm. No. I'm calling in authorities. This goes beyond civil matters. Lorraine's face paled. And when 2 officers entered the room, she didn't look at me. She looked through me. Like I was no longer the woman who raised her, but a mirror to everything she'd done. They didn't cuff her. Not yet. But when the officers stepped forward and quietly asked Lorraine and her husband to accompany them for questioning, I saw the panic bloom behind her eyes. She clutched her purse like it could save her. Her voice cracked as she asked, Is this necessary? The judge nodded. This court has reason to believe there may be criminal misrepresentation, identity fraud, and exploitation of an elder under state law. Until that's clarified, your civil suit is suspended indefinitely. Lorraine turned to me then. Her expression twisted. Half anger, half desperation. Mama, you did this? I didn't answer. I simply looked at her. For the first time in a long time, I didn't flinch, didn't fold, didn't rush to explain or apologize. I let the silence stand like a wall between us. Sturdy, built from everything she had done and everything I had finally seen. They escorted her out quietly. Her husband followed, but not before throwing me a glare that could have curdled milk. That man had never liked me. Too independent for his taste, too involved in their affairs, as he once said during a family dinner. Now I knew why. When the courtroom emptied, Peter put a hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing, he said. I wanted to believe him. But that night, when I returned to my small, rented cottage, I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. Because while justice may have begun to stir, grief had already taken root. Grief for a daughter I couldn't reach anymore. For a family that had drifted so far from the warmth we once shared. For the woman I used to be. The giver, the fixer, the one who believed love could conquer anything. The next few weeks were a blur of depositions, document signings, and long phone calls with Peter and Carla. The financial forensics were damning. Lorraine had taken out 4 credit cards in my name. She'd transferred ownership of a second property, one I'd inherited from my parents, by forging my signature. She and her husband had even applied for a reverse mortgage on my main house, falsifying documents to claim I was incapacitated. And all the while she had smiled at me, kissed my cheek, told me not to worry. The betrayal wasn't just financial. It was spiritual. One morning, I opened a kitchen drawer and found an old birthday card. To the best mama in the world. It read in tiny rounded handwriting. Thank you for always being my hero. I sat at the table and cried for a long time. Until I couldn't anymore. It was around that time that I received a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name written in my daughter's handwriting. Inside was a note. You've ruined everything. I hope you're happy. I needed that money. You knew that. You made me do this. Not a word of apology. Not even a question about how I was doing. Just blame. Like always. I took the note and folded it neatly. I didn't rip it. I didn't scream. I just walked to the fireplace and lit a match. The paper caught quickly. And as it burned, I whispered aloud, "No more." That was the day I stopped asking why she did what she did, and started asking myself what I wanted next. It was Peter who encouraged me to take back the house. "It's yours, Miriam." She signed over power with a fraudulent agreement. "You have every right." I was hesitant. Not because I didn't want it, but because the house had started to feel like a haunted shell. A place filled with memories that now echoed betrayal. Still I drove there. One quiet afternoon, I parked outside my old home and just sat. The yard was overgrown. The porch light was cracked. One of the shutters had fallen halfway. It didn't look like the house I had left. It looked like it had been neglected. Just like me. I unlocked the front door with the original key. It still worked. The air inside smelled stale, a mix of dust and something artificial, like lavender sprayed to cover up rot. I walked slowly from room to room. The kitchen still had the same tile. My husband and I had laid it ourselves one summer, arguing over grout colors. The dining room still had the chandelier we bought from a flea market in Santa Fe. One bulb flickering like it was trying to remember happier times. In the living room, the photos were gone. Only empty frames and nail holes remained. She'd taken every picture of me down. But one thing remained. Tucked on a shelf near the fireplace was a small wooden box. I opened it gently. Inside was a recipe card. My mother's handwriting. Sunday peach cobbler. Bake until the edges crisp, and the top bubbles like laughter. I smiled through tears. Maybe all wasn't lost. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to live as a victim in my own story. The house would be cleaned, repaired, rebirthed. And so would I. I hired a small team, a retired couple from my church and their grandson, to help clean out the junk and repaint the walls. We planted new roses in the garden. I replaced the curtains, polished the old floors, and bought a second-hand record player. And every morning, I played music while I made breakfast. Billie Holiday. Nina Simone. Sometimes a little Otis Redding. The house began to breathe again. And so did I. Lorraine, meanwhile, faced a formal investigation. Her lawyer tried to negotiate. Offered quiet settlements. But I refused to let them sweep it under the rug. Peter told me I had the right to press full charges or drop them. But this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. About drawing a line in the sand and saying, this far, no further. So I let the court decide. I cooperated. I showed every receipt, every document, every tear-stained record of what I'd given and what had been taken. And when the judge ruled in my favor, fully restoring all property, canceling the fraudulent debts, and beginning criminal proceedings, I didn't clap or cry. I just exhaled. Finally. That weekend, I hosted a small dinner. Just 5 of us. Me, Mrs. Appleton from the library, Peter and his wife, and Carla, the financial investigator, who brought peach cobbler she made from my mother's recipe. We sat on the porch, watching the sun go down, sipping tea and laughing. Not about the past but about everything else. Birds nesting in the maple tree. The stray cat that had adopted my backyard. A memory Peter shared about his own grandmother, who once threw a typewriter at a cheating neighbor. I looked around and thought, this is what family feels like. Not just blood, but kindness, respect, care freely given and never stolen. As the stars blinked to life above us, I felt something shift inside. A settling. A healing. Because I'd spent so long giving pieces of myself away, and now for the first time in years, I was whole again. And that was enough. The peace didn't arrive all at once. It came in moments, small, unexpected ones. Like the first time I opened the curtains in the master bedroom and let the morning light in without flinching. Or when I watered the rose garden and saw a new bud blooming right where Lorraine's children used to stomp through the soil. Healing was a quiet visitor, not a loud declaration. But just as I began to settle into my new rhythm, the past knocked on my door again. Literally. It was early afternoon, and I was folding laundry in the living room, the soft hum of Billie Holiday playing in the background. The doorbell rang once. Then again. Quick. Nervous. I opened it and found myself face to face with my son-in-law, Eric. Lorraine's husband. He looked thinner than I remembered. His usual smug expression had cracked, revealing something almost human. He held a manila envelope in one hand and a look of unease in the other. "Miriam," he said, forcing a half-smile. "Mind if I come in?" I didn't move. "Why are you here?" He cleared his throat. "I thought we could talk. Set a few things straight." "I don't believe we have anything left to set straight, Eric." His jaw tensed. He looked past me, into the house. "Lorraine's not doing well. She's under a lot of pressure." I crossed my arms. I imagine court dates and criminal investigations are stressful. He laughed. Humorless. "She's your daughter." I narrowed my eyes. "She made her choices. And so did you." For a long moment, we stood in silence. Then he extended the envelope. "What's this?" "Something you should see." I didn't take it. "Why now?" "Because things are going to get worse. For all of us. And if you still care about your grandkids." At that, I cut him off. "Don't." His expression darkened. "This isn't just about money anymore, Miriam. People are watching. Lawyers. The press. Child Protective Services even visited the house. You've opened a door that you can't close." I met his stare without blinking. "Then maybe it's about time someone cleaned the house behind it." He set the envelope on the porch railing and left without another word. I didn't touch it for hours. Not until nightfall, when the air had cooled and the house had gone still again. I sat by the fireplace with a cup of chamomile and opened it. Inside were bank records. Dozens of them. But more shocking than the numbers was what they revealed. Eric had been siphoning money from Lorraine's business accounts for years, without her knowledge. Accounts she believed were meant for her boutique, her independent future, as she often called it. There were fake invoices, double charges, even wire transfers to an overseas account. It wasn't just Lorraine who'd betrayed me. She'd been betrayed too. And somewhere deep in that realization, my anger twisted into something else. Something quieter. Grief, maybe. Or resignation. They'd built their marriage on manipulation, on deceit, and now it was rotting from the inside. I called Peter the next morning and sent him the documents. He confirmed what I feared. "If this is true, and we can prove it, Lorraine's going to need a separate defense," he said. "This turns everything upside down." "What happens now?" I asked. "That depends. Do you want to help her?" I didn't answer right away. Because I didn't know. A week later, I got another unexpected visit. This time, it was Lorraine. She stood at my doorstep, hair pulled into a messy bun, eyes hollow and tired. No makeup. No performative smile. Just Lorraine, or whatever remained of her. "Mama," she said softly. I stepped aside. Let her in. We sat across from each other at the old kitchen table. The same one where I used to braid her hair before school. The one where we decorated cookies together every Christmas. Now, between us, the wood seemed like a canyon. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded tissue. Pressed it between her fingers. "I didn't know about the offshore account," she said. "I didn't know what he was doing." I said nothing. She looked up, eyes brimming. "I thought you hated me." "I don't hate you, Lorraine." "Then why did you do all this?" "Because I had to." Her voice cracked. "You humiliated me." I met her gaze. "No. You did that to yourself. I just stopped covering for you." Silence. "I was drowning," she whispered. "He lost his job. Again. I didn't know how to keep things together. So I turned to you. Because you've always fixed everything." I let out a slow breath. "I'm not here to fix anymore." She nodded slowly. "I know." We sat in stillness. "I miss the kids," I finally said. "They miss you too," she whispered. "But they don't understand." "Then explain it to them. Tell them the truth." "I don't know how." "You start with, 'I made mistakes.'" Her hands trembled. "I'm going to lose everything," she said. I reached across the table and took her hand, not to comfort her but to say, "I see you. I see your flaws, your pain, your choices. And now I'm choosing too." "I'll help you," I said, "but only if you help yourself first. No more lies. No more hiding behind me. You want to rebuild? Then do it the right way. For your kids. For yourself." Tears rolled down her cheeks. She nodded. "I don't deserve it," she whispered. "Maybe not. But you still have time to become someone who does." From that day forward, things didn't magically repair overnight. This wasn't a movie. This was life. Messy. Slow. Hard. But Lorraine began attending financial accountability meetings. She filed for separation from Eric. She started therapy, real therapy, not just lip service. She even invited me to spend time with the kids again. Little by little. I taught them how to knead dough and whistle through their teeth. I read them bedtime stories and watched them paint with more color than I thought their little hearts could hold. The courts finalized my ownership of the house and all assets. The charges against Lorraine were reduced after she cooperated fully and exposed Eric's activities. He's now under full investigation for fraud. Peter said I had every right to cut ties completely. But I chose a different path. Not because I forgot, but because I remembered who I was. Not a victim. Not a martyr. Not a bank account or a shadow in the corner of my daughter's life. I was Miriam Rose. A woman who survived. Who stood back up. Who looked betrayal in the eye and didn't blink. And who, even after everything, still knew how to love. Wisely, this time. I never thought healing would come wearing an apron. But there I was, one rainy Thursday morning, tying on a flour-dusted apron while my youngest granddaughter, Lily, stood on a step stool beside me, giggling as she tried to crack an egg. "Like this, Nana?" she asked. "Almost," I said gently. "Let's try again together." The kitchen smelled like cinnamon and butter. The radio played softly in the background. The rain tapped a gentle rhythm on the windows. And for the first time in years my house, felt alive again. It wasn't just the presence of children or the aroma of home cooking. It was the feeling in my chest, the peace that only arrives when truth has been spoken, boundaries have been drawn, and wounds begin to close. Lily's small fingers gripped mine as we stirred batter in a big ceramic bowl. She hummed a tune under her breath. I watched her and thought about how quickly life had turned, and how long I'd let myself shrink in silence. But no more. Later that day, after I tucked the children in for a nap and the sun began peeking through gray clouds, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea and a quiet heart. Lorraine joined me a few minutes later. She didn't ask permission. She didn't have to anymore. She simply sat beside me with a weary sigh. "Mama," she said, "I don't know how to thank you." I looked at her. Really looked at her. She was no longer the defiant, entitled woman who stormed into court with demands. She was softer now. Humbled. Stripped of the layers of performance she had hidden behind for years. "Don't thank me," I said. "Live better. That's enough." "I'm trying. I can see that." She stared out at the garden. The roses blooming again. The same roses I had once planted with her when she was 5. She had asked if flowers had feelings, if they knew when someone stopped loving them. I think about that now and realize they do. Just like people. "I'm scared sometimes," Lorraine admitted. "I think about how close I came to losing everything. To becoming the kind of mother my kids would resent." "You still have time," I said quietly. "You're not done yet." Her eyes filled, but she blinked the tears back. "I told the kids everything. I didn't hide it." I nodded, proud of her and proud of myself, for not giving up, not retreating into silence like so many women of my generation were taught to do. "Do you think they'll forgive me?" she asked. "Children forgive easier than adults," I said. "But they remember how you make them feel. Make them feel safe. That's your job now." We sat in silence for a while. Then she said something that caught me off guard. "Mama, you used to be so strong. I always thought you could carry anything. I guess I forgot you were human too." That broke me a little. But not in a painful way. More like a lock turning. A door finally opening. "I let you forget," I whispered. "I made it too easy. I thought if I kept giving, you'd finally see how much I loved you. But love without limits isn't love. It's just sacrifice." She reached for my hand. For the first time in years, I let her hold it. And for the first time, she didn't squeeze to take something. She just held on. Weeks passed. The investigation into Eric deepened. He was arrested formally on multiple counts of fraud and elder exploitation. Lorraine testified against him. She didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She told the truth, even when it made her look small. That's when I knew she had truly begun to change. As for me, I did something I never thought I would. I rewrote my will. Not out of spite, not to punish, but to protect myself and my legacy with wisdom this time. I left clear instructions about my estate, my assets, and my wishes. And I left a letter, not legal, just personal, for my grandchildren. I wrote, "If you ever wonder why Nana fought so hard, it wasn't for the money. It was to remind everyone that dignity doesn't come with an expiration date. You protect your heart and your name, no matter who tries to use them against you. And when you love, love with courage, not silence." That letter now sits in a locked drawer in my bedroom. But its message lives in me every day. This morning, I walked past the mirror in the hallway and saw myself, truly saw myself, for the first time in years. Not just an old woman with soft skin and silver hair, but a woman who came back from betrayal. A woman who stood up when others thought she'd stay down. A woman who remembered her worth, and refused to let anyone forget it again. Later that day, I found a new photo on the mantel. One Lorraine had framed. It was of me and the grandkids, sitting on the porch steps, all of us laughing. No fancy filters. No forced smiles. Just family. Whole, honest, healing. I touched the frame gently, then whispered to the quiet room, "This time you got it right." Speech balloon final reflection. I know there are others like me out there. Women who gave until they vanished. Who kept saying yes when their hearts begged them to say, "Enough." If that's you, I want you to hear this. It's never too late to take your life back. You are not selfish for protecting yourself. You are not cruel for setting boundaries. And you are never, ever too old to rewrite the story. Starting with the ending.